Okay, good morning, everybody. It's Friday, March 5th, and I'm here to talk about the 628-page bill that was read out loud yesterday in the U.S. Senate regarding what the Democrats are trying to push through. Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin is the one that requested it be read. I don't think he was the one that read it all by himself, but he had some assistance from Senate aides, and I guess if you want to be working in the Senate, you have to do what they ask. So in this case, it was to read a 628-page document aloud. With that being said, I took some of the highlights from that document, and I'm going to share that this morning, and then talk about how it impacts your money, and I guess possibly the markets and so forth. So let's start with the full subsidy for health. So one of the things that they're trying to do to make sure, I guess, with a lot of people that lost their health insurance during this virus, is to make sure that people have insurance, I think, through either August or September. So they're going to look to see if that could stay in the bill, because right now the Senate, the only thing that they've really taken out of the House version of the bill is the $15 an hour minimum wage, and I think they want to replace it with this health piece instead. The Democrats are going to move to do this concept called fast track budget reconciliation, where they're not even going to attempt to get Republican votes. So this means that in the Senate, for this bill to pass, every single Democrat has to vote for the bill. And then if it's an even split, which right now the Senate is even, it's 50-50, then what would happen is the Vice President of the United States, who I don't even want to say their name, would be the one that would break the tie. And so that's where we're at on that bill with regards to how they're going to try to pass it through. What's really disturbing about this is the fact that they're allowing illegals, people that broke the law, to come into this country to have access to some of this money that we are paying for. So just to be clear here, we subsidize illegals' children because they came here illegally. They didn't wait in line like other Americans, and now those individuals are taking jobs from Americans that lost work last year. There's 10 million Americans that are unemployed. And now the Democrats are pouring salt on the wound by saying that they should be eligible for funds. So this is extremely disturbing. Everybody should reach out to their respective member of Congress or respective senators in their states and make their voice very loud against this bill. Strictly on this alone, just in principle, that they shouldn't be rewarding people that are breaking the law and stealing with additional aid. Okay, there's $160 billion. This is funny. They want to give $160 billion to vaccine distribution and testing centers. Wow, what a payoff that is, right? You know what $160 billion is? 160,000 millions. Why would you need to spend $160 billion for vaccination centers? Isn't that why we have doctors' offices? Isn't that why we have hospitals? So now they want to try to create an entirely new infrastructure. And next thing you know, it's going to be like the Department of Homeland Security that takes $80 billion a year and makes us go through a machine with our hands up as though we're criminals. And now they're going to try to create these vaccination centers for us to have to go to separately. This is a horrific idea. Not only do we already have alternatives to this type of infrastructure, it's just another violation of our rights, and they're trying to do something to get more power over us, not just for this virus, but on an ongoing basis. Personally, I think the Department of Homeland Security, we should use better technology and just do away with it. Have the NSA and other government agencies monitor individuals across the board. They have all that information anyways, and they can probably put sniffers on the building and other things and utilize, various other technologies to stop violating our personal space the way they do. but that's another conversation. They do want to extend the unemployment benefit from $300 to $400 a week through August for people that are not working. You know, I understand the concept that it discourages some people from working, but you know, I think that there's an element of this that, if it was constructed properly, would be fair and equitable for all the people that lost their job, that had nothing to do with this. I guess you can call it what it is, an attack on the United States. So in terms of, there's $130 billion that they want to give to schools. Once again, who knows how many people are going to be are getting their pockets lined with that much money. I happen to live in a town that had a perfectly good library. It was actually very cozy. It was a nice building, multi-levels. You can walk between floors. I think the building was probably worth $3 million, and we're a small community of 25,000 people or so. And with less than 50 votes, this corrupt mayor that we have in this town that I live in, who ran as a Republican but supports partial birth abortion, he got somehow a $12 million library built. Now, this thing is super uncomfortable. It's very sterile. It's like you're walking into a hospital, and it costs 4 times as much. And, you know, when people say interest rates are low, so local government can spend this money, they forget to realize the part of the equation, in which is you have to pay the principal back at some point. So, you know, a $12 million library, when you have 25,000 people, so let's just say, you know, there's 6,000 households. So 6,000 times 1,000 is $1 million. Every single household in the town that I live in had to give $2,000 to this library to get it built. Theoretically, we took on $2,000 of debt. This is the kind of crap that's happening all over this country, because people stop putting a pen to paper and doing the math on what these crazy schemes cost. So I can't help but think about my library example when I see this bill, this charge for the schools, $160 billion, because don't we already pay a lot in property taxes across this country? Why is it that somehow paying the federal government to dish out more money is acceptable? And so this is another part of the scam. So now, to add insult to injury, so it's 130 for that. Now they want another 350 billion to bail out the states that have run us into the ground. You know, the ones that set up sanctuary cities and were providing aid to a bunch of people that are here illegally. Yeah, those cities and states, they're trying to suck in another $350 billion to provide bailouts. I happen to be in a state that's super corrupt, Illinois. I ran the numbers on the number of illegals in the state, and the number of illegals in the state of Illinois, okay, I think there's over 400,000. If half of those illegals are children, and each child in this state, it costs at least $10,000 to educate. Now, keep in mind, when the average person in Mexico makes $10,000 a year, if you can break the law, get over here, get into Illinois, and then get $10,000 from the government to educate your kid, I think you might roll the dice and break the law. And that's what these people don't realize. They come into here, they break the law. There's nobody doing anything for us. And then all of a sudden, we're out $2 billion a year. So the taxpayers of Illinois, minimum, are out $2 billion a year, not including the rest of the services, and not including the fact that I got to worry about my school system trying to teach a language that should only be English. Taxpayers, we're an American nation. We should only be speaking English. I grew up as the first generation immigrant. My parents had me learn Polish. I went to school on Saturday. It was on our own dime. My parents said, you're not going to be learning Polish every day. I did not go to ESL, even though they had it. And they said, you live in this country. You learn the language here. You learn this other language on your own time. And if you're going to succeed in America, you stick with your language, the language of the country, to have your success. And this is the kind of crap that they pull, the lunatic left, so that they can turn around and make sure that people, you know, the graduation rate in Mexico is like 7% for high school. And I think the graduation rate of students that are in ESL is probably 20-30% lower. Now, doesn't that help people keep, you know, doesn't that help certain people that like to pull the strings on other people, you know, have an uneducated, less civically minded workforce. When you crush their ability to finish just basic schooling, and that's what this ESL is all about, and that's what flooding our schools with illegals is all about. This isn't about them trying to have it be fair. If they wanted it to be fair, you know what? Your money would go a lot further with foreign aid to Mexico. I would be much more inclined to say, you know what? Let's help Mexico out through like a Marshall Plan. They're on our border. Send the money there. Help rebuild the country there. Because instead of paying $10,000 a kid, it might cost us $1,500. And all I'm saying is, this is all pay for play. They pay with our money, and then they play with these individuals' lives throughout the process going forward. So anyways, that's $350 billion. Now, restaurants have been devastated in this country, and they really care about them. I think a third or a half of all restaurants went out of business. The entrepreneurs of this country that are really the backbone of the country, and they're trying to eviscerate them through corporatism. They get $25 billion. Just give them a little bit. Half of them are all gone, but we'll just give them a little bit, $25 billion. And I say a little bit because they're the ones that have been paying all the freight. They've been providing local taxes, property taxes. They've been keeping people employed. They've been taking care of people that come into their restaurants. They do a lot more than so much of this other crap that is thrust upon us. Libraries, for example, I think the library is they'd like to close at like 5 or 6 o'clock. So the people that are paying the freight, the people that go into work every day, they come home, they may want to go to the library and it's closed. Meanwhile, the private sector, you can go somewhere till 8 or 9 at night. So you pay for the cost, but you can't use it unless you're not working. And that's the crime in all this stuff that's taking place. So a couple things I want to point out with regards to the numbers. The economic numbers came out, a bunch of them today. The expected job growth was supposed to be about 200,000 jobs, or 210,000. It came in significantly higher. It came in at 465,000 jobs. Is what the job growth came in today. The futures went from slightly positive, they went to negative. Now they're back at slightly positive being about 20, 30 bips, I think. The small caps, which got beat up a little more than the market yesterday, they're up about 1.5%. But more importantly, the 10-year treasury spiked about 6 basis points. So it was just at 1.4, I think, a couple days ago, and now it's over 1.61. That's a really big move. That's the equivalent of, when everybody's kind of waiting for the Federal Reserve to do something at 1/4%. We almost had 1/4% move in the 10-year treasury within 4 or 5 days. That's a really, really big move for an interest rate that has, U.S. government bonds. It's a $30 trillion market. So 30 million. So let me say this again. There's a million, and a billion, and then there's a million. There's There's 1,000 millions and a billion. So there's a million, millions, and a trillion. So 30,000 million or 30 million millions is in 30 trillion. So it's a massive number. Every house in the country is probably worth about 25 trillion. So the debt market of this country is over 30 trillion on just the federal debt, not talking corporate debt or mortgage debt. And so for rates to move almost 1/4%, if they stay there, 1% on 30 trillion is 300 billion. Okay. So 20 bips is going to be about $60 billion. That's about $1 billion a week in additional interest the taxpayers have to pay. Because you got to remember, this is federal debt. So as the debt gets rolled, theoretically, if it stays here, we're on the hook for another $1 billion a week. Now, keep in mind, this is after oil went from under $50 a barrel to 65. So now oil prices are up. And then yesterday we found out wage gains are up. That's 6%. So wage gains are up. So then that's going to ripple through the economy. So right now, there's a lot to maneuver. in the markets. And, I'm just kind of sharing my insights and tying what's happening in the markets with the politics, because nobody wants to talk about the two together. And my job at Preactive is to think about both of these things and how it impacts people's money. So feel free to, you can see the link on the bottom. I am doing a newsletter. I just sent one out this week for people that are signed up. We'll be doing one. We'll be looking to do one every single week. Right now, I'm definitely committing to one a month, but I'll be trying to get one newsletter out per week. And then we also have a political one that I'm doing that's not associated with Preactive. That's just me ranting about politics. And you can sign up for that on the site until we transition over to a new website called Python Points. So thank you for listening, and I will see you guys later on this afternoon.